All right, everybody, welcome. It's great to see that we have such a full council chambers today. I will just do a little bit of housekeeping before we begin. The meeting itself is being recorded and live streamed on the Township's YouTube channel. And we do have participants who are joining us this afternoon by Zoom as well. This meeting, although open to the public, is not a public meeting per se. There are delegates who have registered to present, to speak this evening, and those folks only will have the opportunity to speak at this evening's council meeting. For council, we'll just go through and call the roll, and please raise your hand and say your presence when I call your name. We have Deputy Mayor Nelson, you're attending virtually. Hello.
Present.
We have Councillor Watt.
Present.
Councillor Vervoort.
Present.
Councillor Johnson.
Present.
And myself, Heather Watson. Of course, we have our acting clerk, Martina Chait-Pertway. Good afternoon. CAO, Alana Arthur. Our planner, Christina Coulter. Present. And temporary chief building official, Don Honan.
Present.
Hello and welcome. So with quorum of council in attendance, I do call the meeting to order. I will ask you, everybody in gallery, you're doing great so far. But because the meeting is being recorded, we're using these cameras here up front on the table in front of the council desk. And there are microphones scattered around our desks for the Zoom recording. The microphones themselves are quite sensitive. So I ask that, although you're not doing it now, but to please keep chatter to a minimum, because the microphones will pick that up. The cameras will sense that and turn basically to face you, and then you'll be on camera as well. So just be aware of that technology that we're using. So with quorum in attendance, I will call the meeting to order if I haven't already. We'll start with the land acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge that we are on the treaty and traditional territory of the Michi-Saugig Inishevet. We offer our gratitude to the First Peoples for their care for and teachings about our earth and our relations. May we honor those teachings. And I'll just ask that we pause for a moment of silence, please. Okay, moving on. Of course, the agenda has been distributed to council. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Seeing nothing, could I please get an adoption for the agenda today? Councillor Vervoort, seconded by Councillor Johnston. All in favor? And that motion carries. Thank you. On to item number 6, adoption of the minutes. We've got special council meeting minutes from June 20th, regular on June 20th, and a special council meeting from July 18th. Councillor Wall?
Yes.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Vervoort. All in favor? And that too carries. We have 3 items on our consent, 4 items on our consent agenda. Does council wish to hold any of these items for discussion on the agenda? No, seeing nothing, could I get a motion to receive and approve those 4 items? Councillor Johnston, seconded by Councillor Vervoort. All in favor? And that carries. So moving on, as noted, we do have 3 delegations registered today. We will begin with Holly Richards-Conley from Black Point Construction Services.
And she's online.
And she's online. I was like, where is? Hello, Holly, welcome.
Hi, through you, Madam Mayor, I'm here on behalf of the owners of 2345 6 Line North. located in Douro-Dummer. I know that there was a survey and a number of maps that were submitted as part of my delegation. And the one, I'm not sure if the survey might be put up on the screen for council to look at as I speak, but it may sort of help make a clearer picture. This is a unique property, as the cottage, which was built sometime in the 70s or 80s, is actually sitting partially on the road allowance owned by Douro-Dummer. As you can see on the survey, there's approximately 6 meters of linear shoreland that is between the owned property and the water of Stony Lake. This is a small.
Mr. Conley, just ask you to pause for a moment while we're still bringing that map up, just so that we can take a look at. You jumped right in it so quickly, so it's quite all right. Just bear with us a moment.
It's rated in the chairs.
Holly, through you, Madam Mayor, which of the maps would you like me to display for you?
Let me just get all right. It would be the 8807 Site Plan 5.
Great. One moment.
Look on the portion of the property that I'm speaking to is highlighted in yellow.
Okay, great. Thank you for pausing. I appreciate it. Carry on.
The darker black line in which the majority of the cottage sits is the owned property, and the yellow piece is the property owned by Douro-Dummer, just for clarification.
Okay.
As you can see on the survey, there's approximately 60 meters of linear shoreland that sits between the owned property, so the darker line, and the water of Stony Lake. And this small piece of land actually appears to be the very, very end of the road allowance that's between concessions 5 and 6, which looks like it should be at the end of 6 Line Road North, but appears to go out over the water of Stony Lake and then comes back onto the land, which is the small yellow piece that you're looking at. We understand that Douro-Dummer doesn't typically dispense of shoreline road allowances, but in order to move forward with any renovations on this property, in speaking with the planner of Douro-Dummer, the best scenario would be to purchase this road allowance. We've been told that because the cottage partially sits on the shoreline road allowance owned by Douro-Dummer, that if they were to do any type of renovation on this cottage, they would only be able to partially renovate the cottage, meaning we can't touch the portions of this cottage that sit on the road allowance because we can't get a building permit for a piece of land that we don't own. Similarly, if we want to tear down the cottage due to some structural issues that are underneath it and rebuild on the same footprint, we wouldn't be able to do that either because a part of this cottage is on the road allowance owned by Douro-Dummer. And lastly, just wanted to follow up quickly that by purchasing this land from Douro-Dummer, we would not be in any way, shape, or form blocking access to any part of Stony Lake or any other properties nearby if this was closed up. And we'd really appreciate council's support in allowing this unique dispensation of shoreline road allowance to the owners behind it in this.
Okay. So you are making a request today that we are suspending the rule around the frontage so that you can move forward with the process for purchasing this piece of property, correct? Great, thank you. Any additional planning on this at all at this point, or?
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. I can confirm that Holly has been in discussions with the Planning and Building Department. And we have had some legal advice in terms of application of the building code and the whether a building permit could be issued on the piece that is not owned presently by the owner. So we have had a lot of pre-consultation, and I'll leave the rest of it for council's consideration.
Great, thanks, Ms. Coulter. Comments, questions, thoughts from council? What would council like to do with this? Ms. Stephanie Harrison?
So on the line or just on the phone?
Oh, okay, just one question. Councilor Watt.
Through you, Madam Mayor. It is a unique situation. I know we had another one just recently that we closed up on an island property. So, you know, there was no access either here or there. So we got, this one is going to basically this piece of property and make it all legal and help the landowners out. And from what I can see in the maps and so on and so forth, and with speaking to the planning department, I don't see a problem with making an exception to the rule on this one and go ahead and pass it.
So
With the, and I'm guessing staff has already come up, or they will come up with a value of it for us to approve at a later date, maybe.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I think Martina can speak to the process for the stop-up enclosure. There is a policy and a procedural guideline.
Through you, Madam Mayor. So if council were to support the waiving of that section of our stop up and close policy that says we don't sell what road allowances going to the waterfront, we would still need to go through the remainder of the stop up and close policy, which includes public notice, the need to survey. I know there is a survey here, but we would need to have that confirmed, and an evaluation of the value of the land prior to the actual sales.
thank you for that clarification. So Councilor, what was that, a motion that you were making?
It would be that we start the process to stop up and close and go through the proper survey and evaluation of the property and then take it from there.
Okay, thank you. Will someone second that motion? Councilor Revolt, any discussions on the motion? All in favor? And that motion carries. There we go. Deputy Mayor Nelson, delay on the, I paused. All right, Ms. Richards-Polly, I believe that satisfies your delegation. Thank you. Thanks very much. And I'm sure the process will follow as expected.
Much appreciated.
Thank you. Okay, moving on with our agenda, we have our second delegation from Russell Rowe, a presentation regarding the use of off-road vehicles. Mr. Rowe, welcome. Yes, please. Thank you very much. I did get an opportunity to remind Ms. Richards-Conley when before she began speaking, so please allow me to remind you. I'm sure the clerk's office has advised you already that your delegation is limited to 10 minutes. I understand that this is probably a crowd and forum that you're not necessarily used to, so we'll certainly leave our patience and discretion accordingly, but the floor is yours, sir.
Okay, terrific, thank you. And thank you, council and staff, for the opportunity to speak. I don't mind, I'm going to read because I'm not a great public speaker. I'm here representing a group of citizens of Douro-Dummer who are very concerned and frankly disappointed at what transpired at the last council meeting with regard to the topic of use of off-road vehicles on the roads in Douro-Dummer. To be clear, we do not object to the use of off-road vehicles when used legally in a manner that does not negatively affect the lives of other citizens. Law-abiding use on farms, private property, or designated trails is absolutely not our complaint. We do, however, object to opening roads to off-road vehicles for the following reasons. As indicated in the name, off-road vehicles are not designed for safe use on roads. In the USA, where more safety studies have been conducted, the consensus is to recommend strongly against the use of ORVs on public roads of any type. The U.S. National Library of Medicine, the National Institute of Health, the Specialty Vehicle Institute of America, the Consumer Federation of America, the ATV Trade Association, and all ATV manufacturers strongly recommend against driving on roads, paved or otherwise, because the low-pressure tires are designed strictly for off-road use and are dangerous due to potential loss of control on roads. In fact, Honda goes so far as to recommend riders get off their ATV and walk it across roads. Polaris, an example here, Polaris is now even requiring warnings in published advertisements stating, quote, Polaris off-road vehicles can be hazardous to operate and are not intended for on-road use, close quote. In addition, ORVs do not come equipped with turning signals, differentials, or proper headlights for use on roads, which are a serious safety concern, not only for off-road vehicle riders, but also for others using public roads. In 2019, when asked for input regarding Bill 107, in which the onus was to switch to allow the use of ORVs on roads unless expressly prohibited by municipalities, the 444 members of the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, or the AMO, voted no. They stated that use of ORVs on roads, quote, could be dangerous for both drivers of cars and off-road vehicles. Expansion of the use of these vehicles could open up municipal governments to court claims for any accidents that may occur under the current joint and several liability regime. AMO urges the standing committee to undo this proposal and to protect municipal taxpayers from any potential liability claims, end quote. As often happens, the Ford government unwisely passed the bill anyway without changes, ignoring the facts and recommendations. We repeatedly hear from local ATV enthusiasts who wish to open the roads that there have been no problems whatsoever in municipalities where roads have been opened up, but that is clearly not accurate. The Haliburton Cohort, the Pine Ridge District Health Unit, published the following information. 1, between 2015 and 2019, there were 1,286 ATV-related emergency department visits, an average of 257 per year, or almost 5 per week. 2, the majority of these ATV-related emergency department visits occurred among residents of Kawartha Lakes with 602, followed by Northumberland with 516 and Haliburton with 168. Not surprisingly, these are the municipalities where ORVs are currently permitted on roads. The highest number of ATV-related emergency department visits occurred among residents 10 to 19 years of age. Children are the most at risk. There are higher rates of fatalities and serious injuries for ORV riders on roadways compared to off roadways. Restricting ORVs to trail use only would be the preferred best practice from a public health standpoint. Is it really wise to contribute further to our current public health crisis? Aren't our PRHC doctors, nurses, and health budgets already stretched enough? The Consumer Federation of America published a 2014 study recommending soundly against the use of ATVs on public roads. It contains the following statistics of concern. From 1997 to 2007, on-road ATV deaths increased twice as fast as off-road deaths. 65% of ATV deaths occur on roads. 74% of ATV deaths on public roads are on paved roads. In fact, despite claims to the contrary from ORV enthusiasts, there are often serious accidents and related fatalities, and they most frequently involve roads. Just this past week, we had a serious crash nearby in Selwyn Township and a tragic double fatality of a mother and her 5-year-old daughter near Perry Sound. Both accidents occurred on a road, apparently due to a loss of control. There are, of course, many more tragic accidents, and they appear to be increasing in frequency as more roads are traversed, legally or otherwise. Road shoulders have been suggested for use by ORVs, but many of our roads have insufficient or non-existent shoulders. And now that the term ORV includes side-by-sides and amphibious vehicles, which are almost as wide as a small car, it's an accident waiting to happen. It is currently illegal to drive on the shoulder of a road for safety reasons, to enable drivers to exit traveling lanes in an emergency. Why should ORVs be exempt from that law? When so much information is available in advance from experts recommending against the use of ORVs on roads, opening our roads to ORV use is also dangerous financially because it unlocks the potential for litigation against the township and or councillors when there is a serious or fatal accident involving an ORV on a road. It is made even worse when considering the current joint and several liability regime, which states if any negligent parties involved in a lawsuit were unable to pay, the other parties involved take on the financial responsibility. For example, if an uninsured rider is found to be negligent, even if the municipality is found to be only 1% liable, the courts will look to the township to compensate the injured parties, which could be in the millions of dollars. Clearly, this is a financial risk from which councillors should be protecting their constituents. Even as indicated in the clearly biased 2022 Stantec study report, opening our public roads to ORV use will certainly add extra strain on township expenses, resulting in an added tax burden to our citizens for policing, road repairs and improvements, and signage. In addition, since insurance underwriters are not foolish, if we open our roads to ORVs, we can all certainly expect our home and auto insurance premiums to rise, whether or not we own ORVs, since our roads are considered less safe and the premiums are calculated factoring in location and risk. Especially now, after a large property tax increase when many constituents are struggling to make ends meet, it is unfair to taxpayers to increase their insurance and municipal costs by hundreds of thousands of dollars annually just to improve convenience for a relatively small but vocal interest group who knew use of ORVs on roads was illegal when they opted to purchase their machines. Clearly, ORVs are very noisy. Because they are designed for off-road use, they are not required to conform to the same noise limitations as vehicles designed for on-road use. Asking residents to accept that amount of noise potentially as early in the day as dawn is unreasonable. A car or truck making similar noise as that of an average ORV would be subject to receiving a ticket for excessive noise. So why would we allow ORVs to use the roads with impunity? In these days of extreme global climate change concerns, we should not be promoting recreational activities that rely on fossil fuels and consequently contribute to air pollution and add significant amounts of carbon dioxide to the atmosphere. It only takes a short ride in an ATV to negate much of the work of those of us who are trying to reduce our carbon footprint. As is evidenced by the experience in Forth Lakes, Northumberland, and Halliburton, opening our roads to potentially thousands more noisy and destructive ORVs is a bad idea. While of course this doesn't apply to everyone, ORVs tend to attract people that like to tear it up and often don't respect laws, property rights, or nature. At the last council meeting on June 20th, it was pointed out that one can be pulled over by the OPP without being charged as many as 6 times for illegally using roads on an ORV. Even if traveling slowly, it is still breaking the law. Not being charged was lucky, but clearly indicates a breakdown in our policing service. Approved, and especially in the last few months since this topic has resurfaced in Douro-Dummer, we have been noticing a significant increase in illegal and dangerous ORV traffic on our roads. It is a serious safety issue, but apparently if we call the police, nothing will be done because of this constant confusion regarding what may or may not be allowed on the roads in Douro-Dummer. I'm not surprised the police may be confused. I would like to formally request that our police services investigate why the OPP are not enforcing the laws regarding ORV use on our roads. The frequency of dangerous and illegal activity is increasing and something needs to be done before there is a very serious incident close to home. In summary, we believe strongly that opening up any roads is a grave mistake. It's being suggested that we could open the roads and then if there are any problems, we can revisit the issue. But clearly, once the roads are open, it sets a precedent that is very difficult to reverse. I wonder what it would take to have the issue revisited. How many serious accidents or deaths will it take? Not long ago, texting and driving was legal, but we learned the hard way through too many tragic accidents that distracted driving is a dangerous practice that had to be outlawed. Clearly, we already know that use of ORVs on roads is dangerous. Are we really so unwise as to give it a try first and then wait and see how many serious or fatal accidents occur in Douro-Dummer? We agree with Mayor Watson and Councillor Report that this is a topic that affects everyone and must be dealt with responsibly and impartially. If despite all the available evidence that opening the roads is a terrible idea, council still opts to take this motion further, then it should not be done without local public input or ideally a fair and comprehensive referendum. And certainly a majority of people living, if a majority of people living on any road vote no, they should not be forced to have their road turned into a busy ORV trail. We sincerely hope council will not cave to the pressure from a persistent and privileged few who by their own admission are just looking for convenience for their chosen recreational activity, but without regard to the negative impact they have on the lives of others. Please consider this. When the inevitable, serious, or fatal accidents do occur, how will you face the family of that lost son or daughter? Please also consider whether or not making our roads less safe is the legacy by which you want to be remembered as a Douro-Dummer councillor. We hope you will agree the evidence overwhelmingly supports that the only responsible decision is to deny the use of ORVs on all our public roads. If all roads are closed to ORV use once and for all, clearly our roads will be more safe and it will resolve any confusion for the public and the police as to what is or is not legal. Most importantly, you will be saving lives. Thank you again for the opportunity to express our concerns.
Thank you, Mr. Rowe, for your presentation, just a minute or two over. So thank you for serving.
Sorry.
Oh, no, it's okay. It's okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Council, any questions or comments?
You, Mayor Watson, thank you very much for the presentation. A lot of points brought up on a variety of fronts in there, I would say. Of course, public safety being the primary concern here. I know that there has been discussion both in council and even in the community about allowing the opening up of roads even further on ATVs, sorry, ORVs. I think that before any additional action is taken on that front and allowing ORVs on additional roads in the township, I would like to see staff come back to council with a very, very comprehensive report on ORV safety as well as financial impacts to the township as well. My first thought is when I read this is it would be seeing a lot of American statistics in here is good because they have a very large population of people, so they've got a pretty large sample to pick from, and they've clearly done quite a bit of work. Even the manufacturers of these vehicles have said, hey, don't use these on the roads. I'll note that at the gas station, you see signs that say, do not ingest. And that means don't drink the gas because it's bad for you. A bottle of bleach says the same thing too. If the manufacturer says it's not safe, I'm kind of willing to err on the side of caution that they actually know what they're talking about. So I would like to see staff come back with something from the OPP showing some statistics on ORV accidents on roadways in the province. And if possible, roadways within the township, both in terms of accidents and deaths. It would be a convenient statistic to find out how many deaths on ORVs versus number of automobile deaths. We know a lot of people drive cars. We know a small number of people drive ORVs. I mean, if I were a betting man, I would say that there's more deaths per capita on the ORV side than there is on the car side of things. So as I say, a pretty comprehensive report from the OPP, as well as it would be beneficial to get input from the OPP on their perspective of the use of ORVs on our roads, whether it be, well, public safety perspective, as well as enforcement of laws as well. So that's going to say, I'll say that's the public safety side of things. And then on the other side, from the township's finance perspective, it would be good if we had feedback from the insurance company that township deals with to the potential liability issues that we can face, because that does have an impact on ratepayers.
Okay, thank you for that, Councilor Report. So what I'm hearing is, and I'll just confirm with staff on this, on the point on safety that you raised, getting some data from the OPP. CEO, Elena, CEO Arthurs, would it be possible to invite the OPP in at some point in the near future before any additional decisions are made to go over some of those statistics locally? Is that something that we could do?
Mayor Watson, and we're happy to inquire to determine if they have the availability to come in. Absolutely.
Okay, I think just for those in the gallery who might be following along and Mr. Rowe and in response to your delegation, the motion, as I'm sure you are well aware, was to open up a select group of county roads. That decision has now been sent on to the county, where county council will be in the future, in the near future, reviewing that request. The other part of that motion that came forward in that same meeting was to have staff bring a report back to look at the possible opening of additional township roads in the future, again, at an undetermined time in the future, but to bring some sort of report back on that. So I would expect that, or hope that we could coordinate some statistics and details from the OPP, if not a presentation from them, at very least some localized statistics to help formulate that report. And is that what you were getting to?
Thank you, Mayor Watson. That's, you say it far more eloquently than my long diatribe, but that is a coupled with feedback from our insurance company who would be welcome to come do a presentation as well.
Right, and that was going to be the other piece to talk about is from our insurance and also if there's data, I don't know if that would be through AMO, trying to weigh municipalities against those that have versus those that don't as it relates to the joint liability concerns that have been raised today. Okay, so do you want to make a motion to that effect?
Through Mayor Watson, yes, I would like to make that motion.
Okay. And Councillor Johnston will second that. We should probably add in that a motion to receive the presentation from Mr. Rowe, if you will accept a friendly amendment to that.
Yes, I
just
would,
for my
I would accept that amendment,
And
yes.
Councillor Johnston, you accept that, of course. Any other comments, questions to the motion, Councillor Watt?
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor. Just thank you very much for the presentation. Very well done. I'm sure there's a lot of people in the room here on both sides of the matter, stuff like that, and I appreciate that. And we will take everything you've had under advisement and look forward to report from staff.
Thank you very much.
Seeing no other comments, all those in favor? And that motion carries. Thank you again, Mr. Rowe. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Councillor
Mr.
Johnson.
Chair, I would like to move number 14, notice of the motion, with no debate. I have a notice of motion that I want to give everybody right now. If you will let me move that ahead
So you're looking to move,
regarding this.
you're bringing forward a notice of motion on this item,
Yeah.
just to be read,
Yeah, that's here, no discussion.
no
Just
discussion,
want to pass that on to.
certainly. And I believe there is another notice of motion, I know there is on it. What's that?
Would you like the motion to do the both at the same time?
I think they're quite separate,
Yep.
so
Okay.
we'll hold on that. But there will be another notice of motion going forward on the agenda, sorry, Madam Clerk, that's been making sense.
I'm just going to read that if it's all right.
Please do.
Tuesday, August the 3rd, 2003. I want to make a notice of motion to consider resolution number 213-2023 regarding ORVs on selected county roads as shown in option B.
Okay, so again, for those of you who are in the gallery and are interested. So the way notice of motion works, there's no discussion on that. It's not seconded. It's basically added to the agenda for discussion at our next council meeting, which I believe is September 4th. At that time, the person who's making the motion, in this case, Councillor Johnston, will officially make that motion and be seeking somebody to second that motion at that time. So at this point, it's just being added to the record.
Madam Chair, did you want me to read out that motion from the previous meeting?
Sure, if you have it handy.
I can pull that up.
Great, thank you.
So resolution number 213-2023 reads as follows. It was moved by Councillor Watt, seconded by Deputy Mayor Nelson, that the report dated June 20th, 2023 regarding use of ORVs on township roads be received, that a request be sent to the County of Peterborough to allow ORVs on select county roads as shown in option B, along with the inclusion of County Road 8 from Highway 28 east to County Road 38. And finally, that staff be requested to bring back a report regarding the possibility of allowing ORVs on township roads. There was a recorded vote for this motion. That recorded vote was requested by Councillor Johnson. The roll was called by myself, and the vote was as follows. Dummer Ward Councillor voted no. Douro Ward Councillor voted yes. Councillor at large voted yes. Deputy Mayor voted yes. Mayor voted no. That was 3 for the motion and 2 against the motion, so the motion was carried.
Thank you for that, Madam Clerk. So again, that notice of motion will be on the agenda as a motion brought forward on September 4th. Thank you. All right, so we did call the vote on the previous motion, so we're moving on now to item 8.3, and that is a delegation from this.
Just in case anybody's putting that in their, it's September 5th.
Is it September 5th? I'm sorry.
So
yeah.
just in case anybody's jotting that down in their agendas,
Yeah.
to be ready for it.
I appreciate that, thank you. I didn't like calendar. Sorry about that.
No.
So Maggie Braun is here to make a delegation with comments on the official plan. So Maggie Braun, you can please come on up to the lectern. Thank you. Thank you and welcome. And just as a reminder, again, 10 minutes. We'll try and hold you to that, understanding that that you might be a little nervous, but please know that we've got a large agenda as well to get through beyond the delegations this evening.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for everyone who's here tonight to be here as I talk about this agenda item. My name is Maggie Braun. And when I grew up, I was raised to believe that climate change was a threat to humanity, a threat to the planet. I even took ecosystem management at Sir Sanford Fleming College, Lindsay, in the hopes of better understanding climate change and maybe one day working for the UN. That was my goal in life as a young girl. I found while I was there that the science behind climate change was actually nothing more than propaganda, and it stemmed from unelected international organizations. I wasn't going to talk about this, but it did come up tonight about climate change. And just a few scientific facts about that. Carbon makes up 0.04% of the Earth's atmosphere. It is plant food. We are made out of carbon. We breathe out carbon. The plants breathe carbon back in and produce oxygen. The more carbon that is in the atmosphere, the more the plants grow. And Canada absorbs over 7 times more carbon than we put out in Canada. Canada has an amazing resource of fuel, on the West Coast, and there's absolutely no reason why Canadians should be going for net zero by 2050. We need to heat our homes, we need to drive our cars. This is a huge, when we start doing that, we're actually making everyone's life a lot harder. And people die more often because of colder temperatures than warmer temperatures. So what Canada's doing as far as these international organizations is quite harmful to our society and to our health. So from a human health perspective. So I wanted to go into the what happened here in Canada with the United Nations. In 1992, Canada signed on to the UN Agenda 21 by Brian Mulroney. 178 nations signed on and were promised big money for going green. Once signed, Canada became a UN member state, a nation state, and all of our towns and cities were in a sense abandoned or merged together to form UN city-states, of which Peterborough is now one, and Douro-Dummer is part of that tier. By the year 2000, we saw our countries being governed by unelected organizations like the UN, the G7, the G20, the Council of Foreign Relations, the World Bank, the World Economic Forum, the World Health Organization, and an organization you're probably quite familiar with, the International Council on Local and Environmental Issues. That acronym is pronounced ICLEI, and it's all over the reports for our municipalities. This is an international organization that is acting as a consultant group to all of our towns across the country. Instead of following parliamentary procedures for law changes, the municipal primer was sent to all of our local towns in 1994. I didn't bring a copy of it, but you should have it in the back room. This municipal primer outlined how our local governments were to be restructured. It took the power away from our mayor and council and gave it to a private corporation, calling itself our cities, whatever the name of our city is. So the city of Peterborough, whatever the city is the main one for the UN city-state that you guys are amalgamated into. That primer, it outlined how our public officials, those that we elect to hold the power in this town and everywhere else, were to be partnered with a private corporation calling itself the city. A chief administrative officer was brought into all our towns to implement a global agenda and not a local one. The International Council on Local and Environmental Issues became the main source of consultation to push and fund the global agenda at our local levels. It is then that we saw our public funds and assets being redirected to private development goals and foreign investors under the guise of saving the planet. So now I'd like to get into the official plan for Douro that is on the agenda tonight. That is the next step here. So under this UN city-state arrangement, Peterborough County holds planning responsibility for Douro-Dummer. They also hold a chair position on an NGO called Sustainable Peterborough, which is partnered with ICLEI. So I hope you're following that. The official plan for the community, for any community, should be dependent on the engagement with those who live and work in that community, not those from outside that community, and certainly not those from international organizations. This plan was pushed through during COVID, with much of the growth data being skewed by the emergency measures. The acting clerk, who is not from this area and who is not elected, took part in a pivotal role in the decision-making of this official plan. with nearly zero community engagement other than posting it online. Douro-Dummer is not even represented as a single % of the proposed population growth for Peterborough County. Despite provincial and local pushback, Peterborough is still driving all growth to this area to settlement areas like Cavan, Lakefield, Selwyn, and the city of Peterborough. This plan is essentially a plan to dissolve this dear county of Douro-Dummer. By accepting this plan, you're accepting that Douro-Dummer will one day be dissolved and amalgamated even further into this bigger structure. Furthermore, moving on, another aspect of the plan is that it classifies Douro as prime agricultural. This is based on faulty provincial mapping. Douro loves its farms, but the protection of agricultural areas, as it puts it, by a top-down governing structure has made it so that the farmers no longer have a right to sell off parcels of their land. Instead of protecting agricultural areas, this means that the farmers have to sell their entire farm, no longer able to give a parcel to their family, no longer to sell it off in a hard time or to buy extra equipment or however it was traditionally done in the area. Farmers have a right, should have a right to sell a piece of their land should they wish. Divide off an acre. These kinds of restrictions only hurt the people of this area. I believe that the councillors and mayor, you know this, and you know that this is an issue for your local residents, and accepting this plan is not in the best interest of Douro-Dummer. Now I'd like to shift gears to the portion of the plan referring to climate change. I believe that's on page 134, 135 of your official plan. But further to that, since you are basically a part of Peterborough, I'm going to talk about what the Peterborough Environmental Committee did this year. So firstly, their report is found PEAC 23-010. In here is a link to a plan that identifies the required actions to achieve net zero by 2050 here. Measures include a vague reference to targeting our mobility, just like was discussed earlier, but in a different sense. In report PEAC 23-002, it states that Peterborough declared a climate emergency in 2019. This was clearly not triggered by a local event in Peterborough. Nothing has changed in our climate the last few years. I would say now we need to do something. If anything, it's getting a bit colder. So, so this is purely coming into effect based on a global agenda and not a local one. This report states that the city of Peterborough participated in ICLEI Canada's Advancing Adaptation Project and received a grant for $15,000. That's not really big money, but it's money for going green. And if we look back at the amount of money that has been funneled to the Canadian municipalities from the UN through ICLEI since 1994, we will find billions of dollars being used to transform our towns into something that we no longer recognize. Most disturbingly, this report states that the recent reductions in greenhouse gas emissions were primarily the result of the COVID-19 pandemic and how it modified our travel patterns. This is repeated again in report PEAC 23009. When you put this together with the previous statement about targeting our mobility, the question of whether the sacred mobility rights and our legal rights of Canadians are at stake, and I believe they are, and that is why so many people are sitting in this room tonight. Regardless of Canada being a UN member, no level of government has the authority to implement foreign mandates, policies, treaties, or agreements that violate the Canadian Constitution, the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, the Bill of Rights, or the coronation oath. Conspiring with foreign powers to assist in any act preparatory to the takeover of our nation is an act of treason, according to section 46, part 1 of the Canadian Criminal Code. With that, I would like to speak directly to the elected officials of Douro-Dummer, the mayor and council.
Ms. Brown, just to pause you for a moment, you are just slightly past the 10-minute mark, so I would ask that you.
One more minute,
Summarize.
very close to the end.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So I'd like to present a few options to Douro-Dummer for saving Douro-Dummer and for the integrity of your positions as our elected officials. Also, you have an opportunity tonight to set an example for the rest of the country, because this is not the only municipality in this situation. You are the those that are elected, you are the government. The city staff is not the government. You have the power and the authority. Unfortunately, you have been partnered for your contract, and that contract can be renegotiated. The CAO and town clerk and everyone here, they were appointed by the mayor and council, and they can be fired by the mayor and council. Again, the CAO and the city staff here are not local to this area, and they should be. Previous to the Municipal Act of 2011, every mayor appointed her own mayor, or her own CAO and her own town clerk locally, and there are more than competent people that live in Douro-Dummer who can assist you in your job. With that, you can work with a lawyer to verify the claims that I'm making here tonight. And there may even be some in the room here tonight. We have been working as residents of this area to figure out how to do this, but we want to do it with you. We want to support you in making the right decisions. We want to have hope again. We're tired of our rights being taken away from us and eroded. You know, it says that one call represents 10 people, one letter represents 100, one person represents 1,000. And I counted 60 when I came in tonight, and 5 more just came. So that's 65,000 people represented in this room tonight. So we are asking you to do the right thing, and we want to help you. We want to stand behind you. We want to help you step back into your authority as mayor and council, because it's been taken from you. And when it's taken from you, you no longer can protect us. And it's getting to the point where we really need you guys to step up, okay? And we're here to help you with that. Failing that, notices of liability have been drafted by human rights organizations in Canada and are already being distributed to mayors, councillors, city staff, and CAOs across this country. We don't want to have to serve you with notices of liability. But what this is doing is an act of treason. It is serious. And so tonight, here in Warsaw, which has a very significant symbolic name to it, I ask that you would please consider what I'm saying, consider the people that are here tonight to represent this. And the people across this country, do the right thing for Canada and start right here in Warsaw. With that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you for your presentation, Ms. Braun. Are there any questions from council of our presenter this evening? Do you have to figure Nelson still on line, or is he?
Yep, he's still there.
Technology concerns?
Nope, he's still there.
There we are. Hello. So I'm not seeing any questions from Ms. Braun. Or to Ms. Braun, rather. I have one. I'm very certain, you know, based on how well researched your presentation is this evening, that you're well aware of the commenting deadline on the official plan to the province on their feedback site. Maybe you are aware, I'm assuming. So there is a deadline of August 20th where citizens can express their concerns to the province. The process, again, as I'm sure you're also very well aware, as you noted, our acting clerk sat on the technical advisory committee going back to 2016, 17, thereabouts, to bring forward this as mandated. I wasn't on council at that time either, as mandated by the province to move forward with putting an official plan in place. So we as a municipality, as products of the province, children of the province, we are fulfilling our requirement by the province to put some sort of official plan in place, whether that's, you know, our own Douro-Dummer official plan, or the council of the day had decided to couple that, I guess, with the county of Peterborough. So that the submission that we're looking at, that our planner is going to speak to in a report shortly, is that submission, the culmination of that work and that mandate that we were given by the province. And short of not doing that, we are subject to being in a precarious situation with the province. We're required to submit some sort of official plan. So I'm saying this as a statement, but also as a question, because I'm quite certain you are aware of that. It doesn't negate what you're saying. It's just kind of framing the context of the timeline, which I'm sure you're already aware of.
Well, maybe it shouldn't be done during COVID, like you have time now to actually work with the people in your town. And if any of you do have questions afterward, I will send my email. We have a whole team of people that are working on this so that we can actually stand behind you and support you. And I hope that you will reach out to us. Thank you very much.
Sure, thank you, and I appreciate that. I appreciate your question.
Motion to receive the delegation with thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Watt. Is there someone who will second that? Councillor Johnston, all in favor? And that motion carries. Thank you very much. So now moving on to other business and staff reports. We are on to item 9.1, report and capital project status. There's no staff presentation on this one. It's just whether or not there are any questions from council on the report that's been distributed in your package. Councilor LeBlanc.
Madam Mayor, we'd just like to address.
Move to receive that.
Yes.
And will someone second it? Councilor Watt, all in favor? And that motion carries. Yeah, no, I think even though, yeah, if folks don't want to sit around and watch us go through the rest of the agenda, you came for those items, certainly you're welcome to leave. We won't be offended, but you're also welcome to stay. So moving on, folks are clearing their way out. Yeah, maybe we'll just wait until the room is settled down a little bit. There's less distraction. Great, so moving on to item 9.2, we have the report from Christina Coulter on our County of Peterborough official plan ERO posting.
Thank you, Mayor Watson. Council has before them report planning 2023-25 with the following recommendation. That the planning -2023-25 report dated August 1st, 2023 regarding the County of Peterborough official plan ERO posting be received, and that depending on the outcome of the county planning staff report to County Council on August 2nd, Council delegate authority to the Township Planner and CAO to provide the county with the requested support to submit comment through the Environmental Registry of Ontario prior to the closing of the commenting period on August 20th, 2023. Just as some brief background for council, county planning staff did advise that the lower tier municipal staff, that a report is being provided to County Council tomorrow at council. The report will form the basis of the county's comments to the ministry via the environmental registry, and it's proposed to be twofold. So the first part is that to request that council ask the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing to modify and approve the new official plan in accordance with the new provincial planning statement when it comes into effect. The second part to the county planning staff report is that they would be requesting a number of modifications which address the official plan amendments that have been approved since the adoption of the official plan in June of 2022, along with a few minor wording revisions to sections that needed to be deleted, amended, or revised. As background to that, county planning staff have met regularly with the ministry staff over the past year, developing this modification list at the ministry's request. So with respect to item number 1, county planning staff have advised they will be seeking township support and would be requesting that we provide our comment through the ERO by the August 20th deadline. As of the writing of my report, a copy of the county council agenda was not available. However, staff did receive a link to the agenda on Friday, July 27th, and it is now posted for the public. Staff have reviewed the county's report, number PPW 2023-17. In short, the report's analysis at the potential timing of approval of the new county official plan and the approval/implementation timing for the new provincial planning statement is a concern for the county. If the county official plan is approved before the new provincial planning statement comes into effect, the new official plan would be immediately out of step with the provincial legislation. And an amendment to the new county plan would then be required. So as a result, county staff are requesting that the minister defer approval of the new official plan until after the new provincial planning statement comes into effect. And then that the official plan be modified so that it is consistent with that new provincial planning statement. There's 2 other items that I wanted to highlight for council in the county staff report. And those are items that are contained in the Appendix A, which outlines the several modifications that the county is requesting. So the first is proposed modification number 2, and it's a request to change the land use designation of a property located in the township and part of lot 14, concession 8 of the Dummer Board. The roll number is 1522-020-002-07330. And the request is to change the designation from rural to settlement. To rural settlement, sorry. So this request was made to county and township staff via the owner of the property. The property is located on Center Dummer Road and represents an expansion to the settlement of Center Dummer. The area proposed to be redesignated is approximately 3.3 hectares or 8.3 acres in size. And it is shown on Schedule 1 of Appendix A that's attached to the county staff report. The second that I wanted to highlight specific to Douro-Dummer is that in addition to the list of the 17 modifications that have been requested, county or township staff has also contacted county, and we are requesting 1 additional modification be added. And this modification would recognize official plan amendment number 72 to the existing county official plan. That was a site-specific official plan amendment that changed the designation on a portion of the property located at 1110 County Road 4. And the property, a portion of the property was redesignated from extractive industrial to rural. And the OPA was approved and came into effect on March 9th, 2023. So that was after the official plan was adopted by the county. County staff have advised that they will revise their Appendix A and they would add this request and present it verbally at county councils at tomorrow's meeting. So finally, for the benefit of council, I think I'd like to read the county's recommendation so that you have it in advance of making a decision tonight. So it's a bit lengthy, but I'll read their recommendations. So the recommendation is that report PPW 2023-17, which is a report on comments on the county official plan ERO posting, 15 OP 227956 be received That staff, this is county staff, be directed to forward report PPW 2023-17 to the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing and local MPPs as the formal response from Peterborough County on the ERO posting related to the approval of the county official plan. That the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing be requested to defer approval of the new county official plan until after the new provincial planning statement comes into effect, and that the minister then modify and approve the official plan to be consistent with the new provincial planning statement. And that each local township be requested to pass a motion in support of this request and to forward the motion to the ERO posting during the commenting period. And finally, that the provincial government be requested to expedite the introduction of the new provincial planning statement. So given the foregoing and the time constraints for providing comment, staff suggests that it might be appropriate for council to delegate that authority for providing that comment to the township planner and CAO to provide the county with the requested support and to submit the comment through the ERO. This would be dependent on the outcome at tomorrow's county council meeting. So with that, I will turn it back to you, Madam Mayor, for any questions from council.
Thank you, Ms. Coulter. Council, any questions? Councilor Watt?
Questions, comments, maybe some clarification, and maybe you just touched on this, but I'll put it in whatever anywhere. And I was thinking myself, and I keep hearing the maps, the mapping isn't even officially yet. It's basically old stuff. So I don't see how the county of Peterborough can pass something that they don't even have all the information on yet. So I agree with them putting it on hold, asking to put it on hold till they have all that information from the province. It just doesn't make sense to do it otherwise. Another thing that for our township is the low growth rate that they've established over the next, till what is it, 2051, something like that. Like, I think it's 5% or something like that. I mean, that isn't even going to keep us status quo for getting ahead, because every time we want more services, it costs more money every year to run this township. I don't think 5% growth is going to even keep us the status quo, never mind help us get ahead of it. So I would like to see some kind of a comment in there to bump us up a little higher than that to help us out. And my last thing is, and I don't know 100% on this, but family farms, and there was something in the province thing saying they were talking about 3 severances, maybe you don't want to keep somebody, but the Peterborough County plan, I think, said none. And I don't know if that was because of the agricultural designation or what, but I'd like to see that addressed too. So those are my 3 comments that I would like to see go to the county for. Yeah, thank you.
Did you want to comment on any of those or confirm or?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you. I could say with respect to the 3 severances, so that it's a great point. And I think that's why the county is requesting the deferral of the official plan, because the proposed provincial policy statement does speak to allowing for 3 severances from an agricultural property. However, it hasn't been approved. And if right now the county plan has been written under the current policies, which do not allow that. So there could be significant changes depending on the outcome of the approval of the new provincial policy statement.
I just got one comment. Regarding Maggie Grant's presentation, I think we should look at some of these consideration for our township through the staff. And maybe we could see if there's anything there that can keep us alive. If this is facts that's going on, I think we need to stand up and be accountable. So I would like you to review some of the suggestions that she made, and maybe she said there was a forward before the budget.
Mayor Watson, I would like to echo both Councillor Watt and Councillor Johnson's comments precisely as they remain here. I wasn't on council at the time when this was approved, but I can't sit here in good faith and say that I would support the Peterborough County's official plan, because it is essentially a death sentence for this municipality. Growth rate is incredibly low. There's nothing quote unquote in it for the township whatsoever. it completely stagnates growth. It limits the rights of property owners quite significantly. And as Councillor Waugh pointed out, it feels like a lot of the designations were arbitrarily made, especially with in respect to what's considered prime agricultural land in the county and in the township as well. I've explained to a few people that have come forward with concerns over what's designated as prime agricultural land. There are 7 different land classes, with class number 1 being like your very best agricultural land and class 7 being incredibly marginal. In the township, we have absolutely no class 1 or class 2 land. The best we have is class 3, which compared to Western Ontario is all class 1 and class 2. Do we want to develop huge subdivisions and tear apart Oxford, Huron, and Perth counties that are the best farmland in the country? Definitely not. Should we build houses in areas with marginal land? Yes, we probably should. And of course, focus on growing cities that already have the infrastructure in place, whether it be electrical, sewer, and water. So as I say, I can't support the motion as it stands. I would like to put the brakes on everything here until the province comes back with the document that we can look at in a more wholesome manner, both at the township level and the county level.
Deputy Mayor Nelson?
Yes, I want to, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Thank you through Madam Chair. I want to echo some of my concerns as well with the low growth that we're looking at in the official plan for the township. It's unsustainable. Again, the mapping has not come out for all of the agricultural land. I did check with Peter Dorst just as recently as last week. Peter is an employee of Mafra, and he did tell me that it is on its way, but that has not been officially declared by the minister or by the province for the mapping, which as of right now just seems to paint a broad brush on a lot of our farmland, and in some cases not farmland. That is very low class, as Councillor Adam Verort has alluded to there, about the different classifications of farmland. So anyways, I'm in favor of putting the brakes on this as well, and getting more information and making sure that we actually have an official plan that we all can live with, and especially with the county as well. That's my comments.
All right, thank you for those comments. Okay, Councillor Watt is going to try and put together a
I can try and
motion.
put together a motion here that we ask staff, do you want?
I'm sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
Through you, Madam Mayor. I think we should just establish where we're at in the process before we start with the motion. And I don't know whether, Christina, you want to speak to it, if you want me to speak to it, and you can correct me if I'm incorrect in my assumption. So neither myself or Christina was here in the development. Where we are at today, though, is the official plan was approved to be sent to the province by the council. So I appreciate all of the comments, and I encourage all of you to go onto that website, go onto the ERO posting and make your comments there. The position that we're in right now as staff is we don't have the time to investigate the conversation today and look at the things that council is asking to come back to you and come together with a fulsome submission that all of council supports within the deadline of the April 20th date. Or August 20th, I'm sorry. Essentially, it is already with the province, so there's going to be a request to delay the approval, and should we have additional time, we'd be happy to come back and ask for additional comments and try to put something together. But if everything moves forward at the provincial level, which we have little control over at this point, we're not going to be able to get those comments in by August the 20th. Unfortunately, this is something that's already gone forward, already been approved by council to be submitted to the provincial level. So in that request, I think we are going to ask for them to defer the approval, and if we are successful in that, we can come back and report back to council and look at those other additional comments that you may want to make. But again, I'll reiterate, on an individual basis, I encourage all of you to go on, and even council members as individual members to go in and make those comments on behalf of the municipality.
Councillor Watt.
In that case, thank you very much for that. I would like to make a motion, and correct me if I'm wrong here, and if we have the support of council to support, send a letter of support to the county to ask for the delay in approving it till we have all the pertinent information that they need to make a proper official plan. Is that going to work? I think should.
Administrator, will you swing that? Were you going to add something, Councillor Watt?
Pardon me?
Yeah, sorry, I cut you off. Were you going to add something?
No, that was it. I just want to give, the council supports the county going ahead and trying to put the brakes on this until, and they should, until we have until the county has all the information to make a proper official plan.
Okay. Councillor Ward.
Through you, Mayor Watson, I would like to ask Councillor Watt to modify the motion slightly, and that we send a letter of support in delaying, as well as providing lower tier municipalities to provide additional feedback into the county plan before it's reissued to the province.
So to allow for,
Further feedback based on the province.
should the delay be approved?
Correct.
Does that make
Does
sense?
that do, like, so like to get our growth plan up higher than they got, is that the type of thing you're speaking of to give us
Essentially,
more?
let's get everything back from the province first, and then kind of move down the line, again, giving us a chance to modify that.
I see the hands up, Councillor Johnson. I'm just trying to get a state of where we are right
Okay, so-
now. Okay, so bear with me 1 second. I'm going to try and summarize what we're talking about here, gentlemen. So first of all, we have a deadline, an imminent deadline of August 20th for commenting for on an official plan that Douro-Dummer is part of, not fully. It's not it is, but we're part of a larger official plan that the county has submitted with our support. Okay, so I feel like I'm like a coach, just drawing this stuff out now.
Ever.
So the county right now tomorrow has a report coming forward pending the outcome and the approval and support of county council tomorrow to ask for a delay, not for the reasons that we're talking about this evening, but just a delay in general from the ministry from approving the official plan. So Councillor Watt, you are suggesting in your motion that we support a delay, not for the reasons that they want the delay. And Councillor Reward, you're asking that that motion also look at a delay and we provide additional comment.
Based on what the province comes back with in their feedback, and their PPS.
In their PPS, in their provincial policy statement. Which I believe is what the county is asking for in that motion
Correct.
that's coming forward.
So the county will make adjustments to their plan based on what the province says, but we would like to hop in and have input as well.
Okay. Yeah, I see Stanford grimacing here.
No, not through you, Madam Mayor. So there is, I believe, and I'm not sure when the commenting period closes, an environmental registry for the proposed provincial policy statement as well. So it closes on the 4th, maybe? So I would encourage everyone that if they have concerns with the way the new provincial policy statement is unfolding, or if they would like their, if there's something more specific regarding climate change, the agricultural, that is the place to provide those comments. Because once that is approved, we must comply with that document. So there's a hierarchy of how we have to create our documents. That would be the first document for the public, members of council to provide their comments to the province, so that anything that they want the comment or the province to consider would be included in that. in the development of that document. Once that document is approved, the county official plan must comply with that document. So we will then be looking to revise the county official plan according to the new, this is what is being requested according to the new provincial policy statement. And there will be, before council, a report on that new revised official plan and any opportunity for council to consider those revisions. That helps.
Slightly,
Yes.
yes, thank you. Your answer was great. The process is horrible. All right, so where do we go from here, councilors who have a half a motion on the table?
Okay, so as of just for tomorrow, I think all that's happening tomorrow is the provinces, or the county is going to ask the province to follow on. Right? They're not asking for any changes or any updates like that. They're just asking for, put the brakes on it till we have all the information that we need to make an informed decision basically.
Through you, Madam Mayor, they are asking for the province to defer approval. They have a number of modifications that they are also requesting.
Right.
And their final, I think their final recommendation was that, sorry, I just got to it. Sorry, so it's multifaceted. Their recommendation has a number of things, and one of them is to defer. There's a number of modifications, but there would be even more modifications depending on the outcome of the new
Right.
provincial policy.
Okay, so I would just like then to, with my original motion, to send a letter of support from council, this council, that to put the brakes on.
To defer.
To defer, yes. And just leave it at that right now, and then council report, we have a second.
I would second that motion.
Okay.
Okay.
And then I would like to make
A
a
separate
separate
motion.
motion.
Okay, let's deal with the one that's on the
Do
floor.
the
Yeah.
first one.
That makes sense. Sure, let's hear from the clerk and see what we can break down as a motion here, folks.
Okay, so that the Township of Douro-Dummer send a letter of support to the county regarding the delay of the approval of the official plan by the province. Should a delay be approved, the opportunity to allow lower tier municipalities to provide more comments based on the new provincial planning statement be allowed. That captured the earlier comments, but is that what you want to separate now, or?
Do you want to separate them or leave them? What's, how's
What's
that
your
feel?
motion, Councilor?
Yep, I don't mind, as long as the planner and my CAO are good with the dual one, or you want to split it in two?
We're gonna split it up.
Okay, so my initial one first, and then we'll,
So is the first batch?
so just send a letter of support. And.
I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor just to send a letter of support to support the referral of the approval of the official plan. All right. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Okay.
That motion carries. Now, Councilor, before you were going to make a motion.
Madam Mayor, the next motion feels quite hypothetical in nature because it's very contingent on events that are going to happen after our next council meeting. So we know tomorrow if county council decides on requesting deferral from the province. I feel like everything's kind of hypothetical based on the outcome of tomorrow. So I think any subsequent motions on this should wait until our next council meeting. But I would like to make it known in the record that I would be very supportive of the Township of Douro-Dummer requesting County of Peterborough to provide the official plan back to us after revisions, because I would not like to see the province send the County of Peterborough the PPS, and then the County of Peterborough just make adjustments as the county sees fit without getting further input from the townships that are impacted by the county's decision. That's just my soapbox comment. But
Okay. So, Councilor.
so no motion there.
No motion there. Councilor Johnson.
Yeah, through you, Mayor. Just a question, now, they want the submission done by the 20th, Now, any idea how long after that before they would give us, before the province gives the official plan?
Through you, Madam Mayor, no, I have no crystal ball
So it
on
could be
that.
months and months.
It could be, especially if if they're successful with the request to defer. It will be hinged upon when the provincial policy state or planning statement is approved, which I'm hearing could be the fall sometime, but there's been no definite date given.
So what?
One more, if I may, please, remember, could we please have that link sent to all of council and put on our township website for people to access that way, because
Already done.
if it isn't already there.
It's there.
The ERO, like the OP, like.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
Yeah, it's already there.
Perfect, thank you.
So no more motions, no more discussion. I think we're done with your report, Christine. I think we're good. Okay, so we are on to item 9.2, budget schedule, and who would like to speak to this? I have a note that either, okay, Elena will speak to item 9.3.
Thank you, Mayor Watson. The recommendation is that Treasurer 2023-19 report dated August 1st, 2023 regarding the 2024 budget schedule be received, and that the budget schedule, including the 3 special meetings on October 31st, November 1st, and November 8th be approved. I understand we may have some challenges with those dates as they are set, so we're just asking council, this is a proposed schedule, and if it doesn't work, we may be able to make the modification here. We may have to go back to the drawing board just so that everything falls in line. So essentially, it's just to bring it forward to see if there's any major conflicts with any of those dates. And we can rectify them here, great. And if not, we'll have to come back with a revised schedule.
I'm gonna make a motion that we receive the recommendation with possibility of changes to be coming in the future. But the bottom line is that we will get the budget process going around roughly that time.
Great motion. Councilor Moore, are you second?
I'll second that motion.
Fantastic. Any questions or comments on the motion?
There's up, because it's Halloween.
Oh, we're first. Oh, first we could. All right, all in favor? And that motion carries. Thank you. Item 9.4, award the RFP, the strategic plan, and Ms. Arthurs, I will hand that over to you as well.
Thank you, Mayor Watson. The recommendation is that Treasurer 2023-18 report dated August 1st, 2023 regarding the award of RFP ADM 2023-01 strategic plan be received, and that Corey Consulting be awarded the contract to complete the 2023-2027 corporate strategic plan in the amount of $19,920 plus HST. I'll just quickly speak to it. This was the first one we did under bids and tenders, and I think it was successful. We had 7 submissions, all giving, a very different service level and different options. So they were scored by myself and the acting clerk, as well as the interim treasurer. And essentially we used the allocation for scoring as was outlined in the RFP and came to the conclusion that Corey Consulting would be the successful candidate, successful proposal.
Thank you for that. Any questions?
I'll make a motion to receive that, and with one question, where are they from? Where?
Through you, Mayor Watson, she's the owner, is based out of Ottawa, although has done quite a bit of work as well in Durham region. And the Eric Lockhart, who will be the individual who will be tasked with our project, has done a considerable amount of work within Peterborough County.
So we have somebody who's made a motion. Will someone second that? Councilor Ward? Any questions? All in favor? That motion carries. Thank you. Item 9.5, we have an update on the historical committee recruitment out of the clerk's office. Madam Clerk, over to you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the report that's before you is just an update on the historical committee recruitment as stated. We had placed ads in our local papers, on our website. We sent letters to each of our previous committee members and then sent them reminder letters. And sadly, we only had one person apply to be on the committee. So I wanted to bring that forward to council's attention. And I have outlined some opportunities and possibilities for how we can continue to preserve history and present it to our citizens. even if the historical committee is not active right now, including reaching out to past members for special one-off projects and seeing what they're interested in doing with council's approval, just to make sure that we're paying attention to these things and we're not losing our history.
Very important point. Thank you very much. Any questions of the clerk on the report?
Well, I'd just like to comment, to the chair. It's harder to get volunteer, harder for every aspect of, I belong to a lot of different groups and believe me, it's hard to get people to get involved, so hard. Anyways, I hope we can get something done in the future.
And will you make a motion
So I'll
to?
make a motion to receive the recommendation regarding the recruitment.
Councilor Report.
I'd like a second.
Thank you very much. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor? And that motion carries. Thank you. Last report item 9.6, response to request for procedural changes, also from the clerk's office. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I'll just read the recommendation first, and then I'll just give you a short overview of the document. The recommendation is that the report in front of you be received and that council provide staff direction on the various requests. So we had received a letter from Lynn McCabe, Marie Howren, Pat Smallman, and Susan Field dated May 29th, 2023. Council received that on June 6th and directed staff to review the suggestions in the letter and then bring back a report. So this is the report in relation to council's direction. So I did go over all three of the requests. So in general, request number one was that draft minutes be released within 48 hours of the occurrence of a council meeting. Number two is that the agenda be published in draft form 7 days prior to the council meeting. And three, that the public be allowed to ask questions and make statements during the meeting. So in my report, I kind of discussed how we got to our current official plan, official plan and procedural bylaw that had been approved back in May of 2022 and went over some principles under parliamentary law and issues under the Municipal Act and Bill 68, which was the Modernizing Municipal Legislation Act, which was passed back in 2017. And then I went over all three of the requests. So information is before you. I'm happy to answer any questions and I look forward to council's direction.
Okay. Any questions of staff on the report? What would you like to do, Councilor Watt?
Thank you very much. Through you, Madam Mayor. Just a curiosity thing. I do have something that I'd like to throw out there just for discussion, whatever, but I do have a couple things here. So let's take this letter, for instance, that come into the net. So, you know, your report coming like that, which we have seen it on Thursday and everybody else seen it on Friday, but the people that submitted it didn't have an opportunity, like don't have an opportunity tonight because it's not a public meeting to say anything about it. Is there any way we can incorporate in the fact that one delegate from whoever submits something like this can have 5 minutes to, if they want to, and I'm not saying every time we're gonna get it, but is there a way that they can speak to us or give us more information or ask us more questions like that when this comes on the agenda? And I'm only talking just this particular thing only. So let's say if it's a small one here, wanted to speak tonight to what we're talking about here right now. 5 minutes only, one person, but only on the subject that they submitted, not everything else that's on the agenda. But I know, because I know we don't want to open it up. That's another thing on here. We've been told many times, don't open it up for, you know, questions and comments from the audience. It just turns into a mess for you. But I'm just curious as to whether that's something that could be considered. I don't need an answer right now, but it's just something for thought down the road, kind of like that. Maybe we could have that come back as whether that would be viable or not. Other than that, and I haven't had a chance to look into it yet, but I was kind of let on the fact that whether, and this was after the fact, because I did send some comments into the township, and we'll use the city of Peterborough, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but if there's something on the agenda for them, so you have to have a delegation to speak to it. With this coming in Thursday, they don't, it's the previous Friday that you have to put in a delegation. So council go ahead, looks at something on here, passes it, but you know, the general public hasn't had a chance to even have a delegation to speak to it, kind of like that. So is there a way around that where we can free up somehow that, you know, if there is an item on here that somebody wants to speak to, like this particular one, can they can't get the 7-day thing or whatever, you know, the previous Friday before, kind of, that is when the delegation has to be asked for. So they can't ask for a delegation on something that they don't know about until 4 days before the council meeting, 4 or 5 days. So is there any way around that one? So that's just my couple of questions that I, you know, that popped in my mind.
So Madam Clerk can probably address some of those questions. And I acknowledge that Councilor Johnson and Councilor Ward also have had their hands up, but before we'll let Madam Clerk address a couple of questions.
So your first idea of allowing someone who's written a letter or made a request to allow him a few minutes to speak to that request at the council meeting where it's presented, like today, let's say.
Yes.
I think that would be up to council to make that decision. I'm not against it. I think we would want to have some, not boundaries, but some regulations or some rules in place to ensure that that person's given their 5 minutes and they speak to the items at hand and not bring other factors into it. The other thing is that if someone has a report or a request and there's a report on the agenda and they would like council to provide them additional time to present on that, they can always reach out to their council members and ask the council member to defer that document. And then that would allow them to be on the next agenda. So there's always that option as well. In the report, I do speak to the thing, it is a fact, is that we really don't get very many questions and comments from the public, and we would love to hear more of them. And staff are here to take those questions and research them and things like that. So if people have concerns and want to know when things are coming up, we do plan things out quite a bit in advance. So we know when reports are coming forward and how long it's going to take us to respond to things. So we can usually let people know kind of what the time frame is for when that item may be popping up next on the agenda. So anyways, it's up to council to let me know about that.
That would be good. And I mean, to me, that would work. I mean, the defer thing, we've always got that option to defer something. So that would give the public time to, okay, hey, I want to speak on that kind of yet. The first one, I wouldn't mind seeing something come back, you know, in the very near future with what parameters you were just saying, you know, there would have to be certain parameters only on that item and only from the person or people that send it in, one delegate, 5 minutes, period, to have their say on it. And I get, and that could come, you know, after council has discussed it, maybe that triggers something on them, or maybe they're happy with it and they won't say anything like that, but it would just give them the opportunity on their own submission to say something before we pass it or deny it that night.
Okay, so before
So,
you make some.
I'm not gonna make a motion on that yet. That was just for discussion now. We'll just hear what other councils have to
Councilor
say.
Johnson, the floor is yours.
Yeah, well, I echo what you're saying, Tom. That's what I was going to bring up. That the public, that it's intended, be able to say something. And again, we can't prolong it, you know, like maybe one person, if they chatter together, if they're having suggestions. The bottom line is that they may have something that we don't know. And I think it would be to our advantage to listen. We don't have to get in an argument or anything else. And I think they're good enough to come here and they're concerned about what's on the agenda. That's usually why they're here. So I think they should have a few minutes. Like I've been on council in the past, and some of it years ago, we used to let the public give them 5 minutes to say something on something we're dealing with. So they didn't put any submission in, but they were, you know, any comments, and a good comment, maybe something we didn't even thought of. Then I've been also on council that you can't speak. Well, I was always against that. Like, I mean, you appreciate the people coming and sitting through it and listening, and all of a sudden they would like say something, but they can't. And I mean, I was always against that. So I would like to say something like what Tom's saying, except the fact is that I don't think they'd have to have a submission ahead of time. That they could comment on something, or just to prolong it and to keep the meeting going, that every time they want to speak on something. I think you as a mayor would have to decide that enough is enough on different things. And if we ask for any other discussion, we might be entitled that usually we don't have a room full of people that I think would want forever. But I think the people that do come and are interested in something, I think they should have a few minutes to speak. That's my comment.
Okay, so just to summarize here, Councillor Johnson, what you're saying, I think, is different from what Councillor Watt is saying. So before we get a motion, we'll want to get clear on that, but I'll hand it over to Councillor. Okay, Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I did address that exact scenario in my report.
Yeah.
And I did say that Selwyn basically does that. But they don't record those questions. They don't record the name of the person or the questions, and council makes no decisions based on that information. It's only to be listened to. It's not to be reacted or acted on. And I did suggest that if that's something council is interested in doing, that we reach out to our solicitor to get a legal opinion on that before we do that, to ensure that we're going to go with all of the new legislation that's in place.
And just through your comment there, through the chair, is that it's live streamed, so many people will know who is saying whatever or who it is and everything else. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
people will know anyway. But anyway,
Through you,
I hear you.
Madam Mayor, it would be in the live stream, of course. But at the end of the day, the true records of the corporation are the council minutes that get approved. The live stream is just there so people can look back and see what happened at meetings. But the true record is the minutes that are approved at the meeting.
Councillor Report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The one item on here that I feel very strongly about is having a draft agenda sent out to the public available before the deadline for a delegation. Or the last vote that we had on ORVs are the prime example of this. A lot of people have comments on it, but the agenda was, so people had a deadline of when they could submit a delegation. And of course, people didn't. And then the agenda was sent out afterwards and ORVs were on it. And now we have a collection of constituents that are kind of ticked off that a decision was made without the opportunity to speak before that decision was made. So I would like to, I'm fully supportive of having the minutes and agenda or draft agenda sent out prior to the deadline of asking for a delegation.
Madam Clerk, is there a way to not back up the distribution of the draft agenda, but if we were to back up the distribution of the draft agenda to the Thursday, as stated in your report, because council is already receiving that on Thursday, it's prepared, to hold open the possibility for delegations until, let's say, end of day Friday, so the people can review the agenda, submit their delegation request for the Friday once they see the draft agenda, and then that can roll.
So through you, Madam Mayor, what we could do is we could move the agenda up to Thursday, if that's council's wish. That's no problem. Happy to do that. And what we could do is we could still hold our firm on our delegation request. So if you would like 10 minutes to do a PowerPoint presentation to talk about a big issue, you still submit on the Tuesday before so that it gets on the agenda. But we can have a new deadline that if you reach out to the clerk's office by Monday at noon, we can register you for a mini delegation, and you can have 5 minutes to speak to a topic that's on the agenda. And you can do it that way. So then instead of having people just ask questions, without us knowing what the topics are going to be and being able to control those questions, people can register by the Monday at noon. Let us know what the topic is so we can ensure that it can make sense to the agenda. And then that would give them their 5 minutes and they could speak to any of the items on the agenda. Would that be a good compromise?
I think so. That feels pretty reasonable. It gives people the opportunity to speak about something that's scheduled to be on the agenda, and that is the big issue. As I say, ORVs are the perfect example of that. A lot of people have something to say, and they're completely blindsided just by the way the bylaw is written, that they weren't able to come and voice their concerns because the agenda is already set.
Okay. Is there a motion from a member of council? Now that we've asked all kinds of questions from our clerk and tested your your procedural knowledge.
Which is impressive.
It's 2 different items.
Councillor Watt?
But I just had a couple more items here, so we got, and like when Councilor Ward brings up the ATV thing, like I don't want, the amount of people here tonight, I don't want 50 people in the audience, don't get 5 minutes speech, and I'm gonna get up and say the same thing over and over again, so that's kind of deter us a little bit, but you know, on contentious issues, stuff like that, where do we draw the line?
I
on
want
that
to hear
kind
the
of thing?
people, just not a lot.
No, we don't want to hear 50 people over and over again, which we have at previous, even public meetings, so we get, you know, the one gets up, then second, third, fourth, and they all say the same thing over and over and over again, there's nothing different. Next thing you know, you've got an hour consumed, so where do you draw the line on that one? And the other thing that I had was, and it was Councilor Johnson's thing, and for 15 years that I've run council, I've gone to probably at least 15, maybe more, because different conferences and stuff like that, where Nigel Belchamp, whatever, and Fred Dean put on summer, stuff like that, and they drill it into the audience that not to open up a 5 minute, you know, a question period like Selwyn does, because it's gonna come back and in the long run, it's gonna hurt you. So I'm not really in favor of doing that, to be quite honest, but that's a vote of council, so.
One way that we could deal with the 5 minute delegations is currently in our procedural bylaw. You cannot, so if someone brings a presentation forward, I'm going to use something totally different than what we've been talking about. They want to talk about oranges. And then someone else, their position is oranges are great. And then someone else registered to be a delegation, oranges are terrible. That's fine, we'll have both of those delegations. But if someone else comes forward and says, no, oranges are great, but they're not presenting anything new on the orange debate, we typically will not allow them to be a delegation unless they're presenting something new, some new spin on why oranges are great. So we could kind of use that rule with the 5 minute presentations as well. People would submit, you know, their registration basically saying they're going to speak to an item for 5 minutes and what they're speaking about, so for or against or something new. So we'll know a general idea of what people are speaking about, and then we can, you know, if we get 5 submissions that all say oranges are great, and they all have the same information as why oranges are great, we can limit those submissions and say, you know, the first submission comes through, those other ones, we can say, we've gotten multiple submissions that spoke to the same topic. So we're, for the sake of time and efficiency, we want to hear all of those oranges are great discussions. So we already have that rule on the books.
Well, it's reading here.
That's okay.
If I could, thank you, Madam Mayor. This is the advantage of having 2 clerks that have background. I think what we're talking about is going to be a change to our procedural bylaw. And I think definitely the idea of the 5 minutes being able to still register. So it's not likely that you would have 20 people that wanted to actually register and come in and speak. But maybe if you give us an opportunity to come back with a draft revision to the procedural bylaw, so it's something that, you know, we can look at the parameters of specifically, I think that 5 minutes. Certainly keeping our regular delegation process in place, because that does give you the opportunity to know what's on the agenda, where this will not be on the agenda. You won't know until the day of the meeting who's actually registered for that opportunity. So just give us some time to take a look at what makes sense, and then we can come back and present that to council for approval.
Okay. Council report. I hope you're.
Through you, Mayor Watson, I would like to make a motion that essentially just summarizes what
To defer.
is. Yes, to defer and wait for staff's recommendation.
Okay,
With everything discussed.
Yes.
okay, Councilor Johnson is seconding that. Any discussion on the motion? Deputy Mayor Nelson, you've appeared on screen. Is there any discussion on the motion to defer? Nope, you're good. Excellent. All in favor? And that motion carries. Thank you for helping us navigate through that from a clerking standpoint. Okay, on to item 10.1, Deputy Mayor Nelson, that's why you were turning your camera on. It is time for you to give us an update on county council matters. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hope everybody can still hear me all right. I am going in and out in the meeting at times, so bear with me. Not a whole lot to bring up to you about county council matters. We've been actually off for the month of July as well as ourselves at the township, but we're looking forward to a county council meeting tomorrow. We have delegations that are going to be going to AMO on the 20th of August. And anyways, I believe that we do have some delegations that are going to be in front of some ministers at that conference, which hopefully we will be able to lobby for some stuff that is happening, mostly dealing around some of our the issues of our recycling. We currently had an issue with recycling being picked up and at different levels that it's going to be changing over to the producers. So we are lobbying the minister at that at the AMO conference over that. Anyways, not a whole lot else that I can think of to really bring forward to you because everybody's been on holidays. So with that, that's my report. I can't really think of anything else to bring forward to you at this time.
Excellent, thank you for that. I look forward to hearing about your trip to AMO, representing the township and the county in those delegations. So thank you for that. Do we need a motion to receive that? Yes, we do. Of course we do. Councilor Johnston.
I want to make a motion to receive the report, and I also want to suggest something after the second.
All right, the floor to you.
One thing, when you go to county council tomorrow, what I would like to see brought forward again is that we get, that they keep putting the strips on the road for side of the road and then the passing lanes, because some of them are kind of washed off. And I'll tell you, so many people, especially older people, depend on those lines.
Oh, the line markings? I thought you meant the rumble strips,
The
okay.
road markings.
Right side strip.
Like, so often I get older people saying, you know, at night, they're afraid to go, they don't know where the hell the road is. Excuse me. But they say that, you know, like, please, when you tell whoever, and I'm talking about more of the county roads and everything, they put the markings, to keep doing them over and over, because a lot of people depend on those markings. So
Right.
they bring that forward.
Interestingly, on the agenda tomorrow, there is a report from purchasing on a new contract with a line marking company. So it's timely to remind them to do that.
So many people depend on that.
Right, great, okay, thank you for raising that. We do have a motion on the floor.
Review.
All in favor? That motion carries.
Okay, so
Moving on, item 10.2, Township of Douro-Dummer Public Library minutes. Could we get a motion to receive? Councilor Watt?
both
Deputy Mayor Nelson, all in favor? That carries. And sorry, you're right, I should have done a second one for the committee of the whole minutes. Councilor Johnson will make that motion. Councilor Vervoort will second that. All in favor? And that carries. Okay, so on to correspondence action items. We do have about 9 or so listed here. Let's dig in, shall we? Township of Selwyn resolution regarding short-term rentals. I believe this one's also on the county council agenda for discussion. Councilor Report.
Through you, Mayor Watson, I would like a motion to receive and support.
All
I
right,
believe that the intent of this is very much in line with the township looking for some direction. A lot of municipalities trying to form a similar type of policy.
right. So this is actually looking at having the province put the
Assist.
regulations in place. Will someone second that motion to receive and support?
I'm going to second it and also make sure this goes to our committee that is looking after the report to us and make sure that they have that.
Most definitely. All right. All in favor? And that motion carries. On to the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry, a letter regarding amendments to the Public Lands Acts. Public Lands Acts? What would you like to do, Council? Motion to receive? Seconded. Councilor Report, all in favor? And that motion carries. On to the Township of North Portha, legislative amendments to approve municipal codes of conduct and enforcement. Coming from our neighbors to the north,
Make motion to receive and support.
seconded. Councillor Watt. All in favor? And that motion carries. Town of Amherstburg, support for local emergency response system and gaps in healthcare regarding COVID and code life frequency. Councilor
I'd
Report.
like to make a motion to receive and support.
Receive and support. Will someone second that motion? Councilor Watt. Councilor Johnson still catching his feet.
Oh, I'm waiting- I'm waiting for-
Oh, okay. I thought
Wait
you
for
were-
Harold to put his hand up.
I thought you were looking for like,
No,
oh, okay, where are we?
I've got it here.
All right, all right.
I'll second it.
I think we've got, yep, we're good. All in favor on that? And that motion carries. Town of Petrolia, home-based childcare, there was more of that, but I don't really know. Home-based childcare, something or other. Sorry.
Operators.
Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
It's operators.
Thank you. I just scribbled a note because my printed copy wasn't correct. Yes, home care child operators.
Can I ask a question about it before we?
Of course you can.
And from reading it, so is it kind of asking that, so instead of one having 5 kids maximum, you can have 7 now, kind of like that? Is that basically they're trying to increase it like that?
That and before and after school programming, like.
Exactly, yeah,
Before the
and-
months and after.
And I'm good with that as long as it doesn't, they still have to put a cap of some kind on it, because I mean, I don't want somebody having 25 kids, there's only one person.
Yeah. And licensed daycare facilities are all inspected and all that.
Absolutely, so I'm, seems smart.
All right, Councilor Report.
I'll second it.
All right, all in favor? That motion carries. Municipality of North Perth resolution regarding vacant building official. I read that wrongly in my head. Not vacant buildings, vacant building officials, their positions. Sorry. Lots of words tonight. What would you guys like to do with this?
Make a motion to receive it.
Motion to receive. So this is addressing concerns with trying to recruit building officials across the province. Correct.
I would like to support this as well, so.
So we have a motion to
That's
receive. Yeah, okay, so we have received and support, seconded by Councilor Report. All in favor? That motion carries. Municipality of Wawa resolution requesting that the province maintain OHIP coverage for chronic pain treatments. What would council like to do with this?
Yeah, so I'll just support it. Or should receive.
A motion to receive is on the floor,
I'll second it.
seconded by Councilor Report. All in favor? That motion carries. 11:28, we got a letter from the Ontario Ombudsman to the Township of Douro-Dummer regarding complaint handling processes and service restrictions. I will comment that I believe that all of the best practices that have been identified in the letter are in place at this point in time. So the letter is, we were aware of this letter, the comments that we're putting through before, I think there was a bit of a lag getting it off the ombudsman steps. So we have since put those recommendations in this.
Make a motion to receive.
Councilor Johnson, seconded by Councilor Report, all in favor? That carries. Good stuff. Town of Perry Sound resolution regarding the call for housing while protecting freshwater resources. Councilor what? I almost forgot your name. Received? All right, seconded? Councilor Report. Actually, you let Deputy Mayor Nelson, he had his hand up there. So hard for you to remote, huh? All in favor? And that motion carries.
So I didn't do the bylaw.
Right, okay, so we have on to bylaws, item 12.1, housekeeping bylaw, 2023-33. Madam Clerk, can I turn it over to you? So I can share some water, please, thank you.
Absolutely. So this is a housekeeping bylaw that we do usually once a year. So with consent applications, we can request a 10-foot strip of frontage in front of the property to be deeded to the township for future road widening purposes. So all of these strips have been deeded to the township, but they're not currently part of our road system. So this bylaw is to consolidate them and ensure that they're part of our road system. So we do it once a year, just to keep them up to date and keep it organized.
Great, thank you for that summary.
Sounds like the road super, the former road super.
There we go. So Deputy Mayor Nelson, would you make a motion on that? Awesome, you're here. You're
Yes,
one
I-
second.
I certainly will.
Awesome. Councilor Ward is seconding that. All in favor, that motion carries. Item number 13, no reports derived from previous notices of motion, notice of motions. On to item 14, notices of motion. Of course, we did receive one earlier from Councilor Johnston. Are there any others from council? I have one that I would like to read. I apologize sincerely. I only have one copy for council and it's wordy, so listen up. I only have one copy. Whereas, and of course, just to recap our procedure on this will appear on, there's no vote, no discussion, we know this. It will appear on the next September 5th agenda, I've been corrected. And I can certainly distribute copies following the meeting. So here we go. Whereas the Community Safety and Policing Act received royal assent on March 26, 2019, but regulations have not yet been released and is not in force and effect. And whereas Part 4, Section 24 is designed to create efficiencies through amalgamating Section 10 police services boards throughout the province. And whereas Section 22, Item 8 extends Section 10 boards to include First Nations representation on these newly amalgamated boards. And whereas out of Police Services Act 1990, Section 10 police services boards have historically been administered through existing municipal resources. And whereas the amalgamation process will consume considerable resources to recruit and train members, establish policies, create a strategic plan, and establish communication tools, all of which are required by the province. And whereas First Nations do not have an available tax base from which to help fund police service board operations, and whereas municipalities and municipal taxpayers are left to fund significant startup costs to implement the requirements of the Community Safety and Policing Act, governance and implementation of the community safety initiatives. One more whereas, and whereas to date, there have been no funds confirmed from the province to assist with the amalgamation or startup costs. Therefore, be it resolved that the Council of the Township of Douro-Dummer ask that the Ministry of the Solicitor General provide one-time funding to assist with the startup costs related to the amalgamation of Section 10 boards in the province, and that a copy of this resolution be circulated to Minister Michael Kresner, Honorable David Piccini, MPP Dave Smith, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, the Ontario Association of Police Service Boards, all municipalities, and the Williams Treaty First Nations. So that is the motion I've read. Again, council, I will send copies to you by email following that, and it will appear on the agenda for our September meeting. Okay. Moving on to announcements. Any announcements?
Well, just remembering, a lot of people will know already, but the Lions is running a benefit on August the 19th over at the Lions Park. So Saturday afternoon. So they are looking for any donations, and we've already told them they could drop them off at the office here if people want to. But just invite them to the benefit. Parcels, Frank Parcels, the benefit is for. So just remembering that.
Thank you for bringing that forward. I actually have a fun announcement. Just a little note of congratulations to Councillor Johnson and his wonderful wife, Rhonda, who very recently celebrated their 50th wedding anniversary. So congratulations to Rhonda. She must be a saint.
Now I guess I'm to say.
Okay, moving on. There's no closed session. On to item number 19, confirming bylaw Mayor Nelson wants to make that motion on the confirming bylaw, chomping at the bit. Thank you very much. Seconded by Councillor Verboort. All in favor? That motion carries. Our next meetings, we have Committee of Adjustment on August 4th and our regular council meeting, here it is, September 5th. I'm passing that date out. Okay, and lastly, a motion to adjourn. Councillor Verboort, seconded. Councillor Watt, all in favor? That carries. Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, Harold.